It has been a very interesting last 24 hours. Yesterday, I put together a video, the one here on the right, with 5,600 views or so, that spoke about a part of Admiral O'Coin's prepared remarks that he decided to skip over, talking about the one screw apparently aboard the Fitzgerald that was locked, having to use a backup navigation system and go into the busiest port, that type of thing. I'm sure a lot of you have probably already seen that video. Well, like I do with all of my videos, I know a lot of you made fun of the fact that I use this potato camera where I just aim the one device at the other device, but believe me, there is a method to that madness. It's not something I do because I am technologically backward. It gives you a way to completely circumvent the YouTube algorithm, and if anybody wants any more details on that, I'll be glad to provide them. However, after having uploaded the video and having put a backup copy both on my laptop and on my offsite hard drive, and going to YouTube and confirming that it was, in fact, the 9-minute and 13 video that is on your left, after a few hours, I came back and was just going through the comments and saw that somebody said something about it being locked at 1:30. And sure enough, the 9-minute and 13-minute video that I had uploaded had magically just decided to be cut down by forces I have no idea how. So I re-uploaded the video on the left and still have been scratching my head, but I went through what apparently somebody didn't want you to see. And the one thing that was in that video that wasn't in any other video was this idea of a mine. Now, I know a lot of you have kind of taken umbrage with that assertion of the Fitzgerald hitting a mine, because we still think of mines as these floating devices that just lay there and wait for any ship that happens by to just, wallop its way into it. Well, that's not the new kind of mines that the Chinese are putting out. Now, this is an article here that I pulled up on the new generation of mines that the U.S. military is having to deal with and how weak the U.S. Navy is in dealing with mines. And down here in this article, I want to read you this. There are mines that can actually pinpoint the size and shape of a ship in the water as it's passing by at various speeds. He said the technology out there is incredible. Meaning that there are mines that can sit there and be totally innocuous to any cargo ship going by, but it can recognize something like a U.S. destroyer and then move its way up toward it and explode. And when you really think about it in modern technology, that's not a very hard thing to do, given the technologies that are available, like they say here, in iPhones. Now, there's also this article here, USNWC.edu research, China Maritime Studies, talking about their use of mines for the blockading of Taiwan and the protection of the South China Sea. This is a great read, and this will tell you all you need to know. And down here is the only thing I brought up that I wanted to cover that is relevant to this video. Chinese naval strategists note that of 18 warships lost or seriously damaged since World War II, 14 were struck by sea mines. 14 of 18 warships. And here's the thing that really made me do a double take. And I remember it from when I was doing my research on Bryce Benson. Here's Bryce Benson. He was the new commander of the USS Fitzgerald. He had just taken over a month prior from Commander Shue. And it shows in here all of his different service deployments. The USS Winston Churchill, the Kaufman, but the last one he was the commander of is the USS Guardian. Guess what MCM-5 is? It is an Avenger-class mine countermeasure ship. So the U.S. Navy decided that it's a real good idea to have in charge of one of its destroyers someone who is the commander of a mine countermeasure ship. And the history of the USS Guardian is also very strange. Do you know how in the previous videos I was talking about what was the USS Fitzgerald doing in such shallow waters so unbelievably close to Japan? I mean, within 10 nautical miles of the coast of any major country, I mean, you are pretty much right in their backyard. And the USS Guardian grounded itself in an attempt to get into an area that is the Tubataha Reefs National Park in the Philippines, where it went into way too shallow water. And to this day, there is no explanation why the Guardian was what the Guardian was doing there. The Navy never disclosed why the Guardian was transiting into these restricted waters in the first place. Well, let me show you where that is. Do you see this little dot right here? These are the Spratly Islands. These are the islands that China is so worried about. The ones that they have created all these new military bases on. And this is where, under the command... Well, I shouldn't say that. The Guardian wasn't under the command of that man at the time. But this is where, right in this area, that a U.S. minesweeper grounded. Now, all of this by itself, you're right, it's probably circumstantial. But given that the Chinese have now decided to up their game with mines and the types of mines, they pretty much act like independent, floating underwater missiles waiting to, or torpedoes, waiting to just see the right target and then go for it and hit it. And honest, you know, when you look at this, folks, where this happened, allegedly happened, up here, this close to Japan, this could have just been a trial run. It happened right here. This could have been just a trial run, a balloon they floated out there to see if they could do it. To see if they could, because remember, that was a Chinese ship. I wonder if maybe this Chinese cargo ship, I know it was chartered by the Philippines, but it was owned by the Chinese, had one of these little suckers aboard to test it out, to see if they could just drop this sucker off real close to a U.S. destroyer and see if it would actually find its way to it and hit it. And that's what they did. They got real close. They did that 90-degree turn. They went out a half an hour, realized, hey, great, fantastic. It did what it was supposed to do, but it didn't sink it. And they went back, and then at 220, they rammed it again and didn't sink it. You wouldn't have needed a submarine for this. You wouldn't have needed an EMP for this. It's just, of all of the videos I've done, and everything that we have talked about, no one has found it to be any kind of an issue on YouTube until I mentioned the mine issue. And then somebody decided to slice up one of my videos. So, I would really like to hear what you folks have to think about this. You guys have been great with your support. We're going to continue to keep going, at least as long as the powers that be will let me. So like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much. We will see you next time.